Hey everybody, it's Mariana with Three Peaks Classroom. In today's video, I'm going to show you how I teach, set up, and use my word wall in my grade 3 or my grade 4 classroom, and why I think you should still have a word wall in your classroom as well, even if you use a sound wall. Now, before I dive into today's topic, I do want to share a gift with you. I have typed up and put together my list of word wall words that I use in my own grade 3 or grade 4 classroom. It's a combination of frequently misspelled words, high frequency words, or sight words that kids have to have memorized. I've put together all of those and I have it typed up in a nice PDF document. So if you would like to grab that for your own classroom, you can head over to my website at threepeaksclassroom.com/wordwall, and there you can just download my class set of word wall words that you can use in your classroom to teach all year long. I use this set of word wall words in either my grade 3 or my grade 4 classroom, and the only thing that changes between the two grades is the curricular words that I add in every week, and I'll talk a little bit more about that later in the episode. So again, you can head to my website, threepeaksclassroom.com/wordwall, to grab yourself my set of word wall words. All right, so I'm going to break this video up into 3 parts. The first part is going to be about just word walls in general and why I think you should still have a word wall in your grade 3, grade 4, grade 5 classroom. Part 2 is going to be how I introduce, like what is my lesson? What do I say to my students? How do I introduce every word? How do I decide the 5 words or whatever? So I'm going to go over that in part 2. And then part 3 is going to be, what do I do with the words once I've introduced them? What do we do for the rest of the year? And I'm going to talk about that all in detail in today's video. All right, let's dive in. So there's a lot of buzz going on right now about sound walls and science of reading. They make a lot of sense too in terms of like how to form our lips, how to form our tongue, how our teeth should look, to make the similar sounds. And there's a lot of science behind organizing and grouping words with the phonemes in mind. Let me be clear also that I am in no way advocating against a sound wall. And actually, in fact, I'm advocating that if you have the space, a sound wall and a word wall are beneficial to have both. And here's why. Sound walls do a great job of teaching our children phonemic awareness, which is the precursor, it's the foundation to be able to decode, of course, right? But unfortunately, our English language is only phonetic about 50% of the time, and we can partly blame Shakespeare for that. That's what I tell my students all the time. Why is it written like that? Because somebody said so, right? So it's only phonetic about 50% of the time. So the other 50%, our students need to have exposure, repetition, and practice seeing these words, reading these words, spelling these words, and a word wall does a wonderful job of doing that. Now, in an ideal classroom, you would have a sound wall and you would have a word wall for every subject, with your curricular specific words, but we know that space is limited. So in my classroom, what I do is I have a word wall and I combine curriculum specific words into my word wall, except for math. I feel like math, there's a lot of terminology that kids need to focus on. So I actually have my own math board, and we have, I can statements and vocabulary and diagrams and all that. So I have that on a separate bulletin board. But my word wall is just basically for English language words, but also curriculum specific words, like any words that I want to pull out from science or social. But those curriculum specific words, I use a different backing. So all of my word wall words have a green backing on them, all of them. And any other word that I want to use, I will color coordinate that to the specific subject. So, in social studies, I like to have my students use a yellow duotang, and so I would have, social studies words with a yellow backing or something like that. So that's how I do it in my own classroom. So first things first, I already have all of my word wall words organized by the week that I introduced them, and this is something that I highly recommend that you do. So after you've gone to my website and you've downloaded the word wall words, they're all alphabetical order, but I've gone ahead and organized them by the week that I like to teach them. And so for example, I will take all of the words and I have the week on them. So week 11, for example, and these are the words that I need to teach on the 11th week of school. If you're not sure how I've divided the words or how you want to divide the words, I actually have them already divided in my grade 3 and my grade 4 year plans. These are available to purchase on TPT, but if you just open up the year plan, I have a section dedicated to phonics and word walls, and then it tells you exactly the words that you're going to need to use for that week to teach for your word walls. So again, that's available in my year plan. That's in my TPT shop. All right, so I introduce my word wall words every Monday morning. We spend the first 30 minutes of the day introducing the word wall words. And basically the students know that they have to take out their word work notebook. Word work is what I use for all of my phonics lessons. I do phonics every Monday, Wednesday, Friday. And the very first lesson, Mondays, is always word wall. So I get my students to open up to a brand new page or a brand new section. They write the date, they write the number 1, and they are ready to go for the very first word. And so what that looks like on my end, I'll just use a piece of paper here, is I'll tell my students, okay, we're going to write the first word. So everybody write a number 1. And I'm modeling with them on the board how to use the margin, how to use the line, keep everything nice and tidy. I'm always modeling that. And so once I have a number 1 ready to go, I will take my word wall words, and I'm keeping them, secret. And so I'll hold on to this word just like this. So you're the student view. You can't see the word that I have right now. And I'll say, okay, boys and girls, the very first word wall word is 4 letters long. And so the students, in their word work notebooks, they write 4 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4. So they know there's 4 letters in the word that I'm about to tell them. And then I tell them that this word, the word that I'm holding, starts with the letter H. So the students have to figure out that that is the letter H. And that's kind of where your phonemic awareness comes in. So there's a little bit of a sound wall hidden in here, but anyways. So the students know that it starts with the letter H, or I hope that they know that. So they'll write that down in their books with a pencil. And then here's the fun part. I make up a nonsense word to rhyme. So I'll say, okay, this word is 4 letters long. It starts with the sound and it sounds like, or it rhymes with, pav. Pav. And the kids go, pav what? And it's just to get them familiar with the onset and the rhyme, and to hear and to be able to decode those little phonemes. And so they'll say, okay, well, pav's not a word, but I have the letter H written down here. So they'll write have. Oh, the word is have. Okay. And then the kids will probably write something like this. But then they'll realize there's a letter missing. What am I going to do? Or I need to figure it out so that it fills all the letters. Well, this is where their memory or their repetition comes in, and they'll say, oh, I think this is an E. Even though it's not a magic E, because it's not making A say its name, but I think with my knowledge, previous knowledge, I think that I need to add an E here, and then that'll make the word have. So that's how I introduce the first word. And then I do the same thing for all the rest of my words. So let's do this next one, okay? So word number 2, I'll tell my students the next one. Number 2, my word wall has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 letters in it. So then again, they're writing 7 lines. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It starts with the sound B. B. So then the kids figure out this, B, and then I'll say it rhymes with, or it sounds like the word Zikas. And of course, Zikas isn't a word. I like making nonsense words, but then they need to figure out because. Okay, B, 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 B. Okay, I rewrote it on the other side to make it look nice. But once I've introduced all 5 of my word wall words, now some weeks might be 5, some weeks might be 6 words, some weeks might only have 3 words, depending on the size of the words or the general pattern there that I've put together. But generally it's 5 words. Once I've introduced all 5 words, then I have a curriculum specific word. And so, I might put a star, or I might put like a number 6, and then I'll have the kids guess in the same pattern the word wall word for the specific curriculum word. So let's say the word I want them to write is recycle. In grade 4, they're learning about recycling. And so, we'll do the same steps. How many letters is it? What letter does it start with? What sound does it start with? What does it sound like? And then they'll figure that out. So that is the last piece of introducing the words. Now, once we've had all of our words introduced, this is how I finish off the lesson. I model writing a complete sentence using a word wall word in my sentence, and I box the word wall word, but here's the catch. My sentence needs to be error-free. And it doesn't have to be complex. When I first introduced this, students think that they need to have lines and lines for a sentence. No, it can be a very, very simple sentence, but it needs to be error-free. So, for example, the first word is have. I would write a sentence like, I have a pencil. That would be my simple sentence, but I tell my students that it has to be error-free. They need to check for capitals, they need to check for spelling, make sure there's no spelling mistakes, and they need to check for punctuation. Now, I have a classroom currency in my classroom. I use, pretend dollar bills. And so I tell my students, if they can write a complete sentence that is error-free with all of the word wall words on their very first try, and I check it and it's correct, they get $5 in my classroom. Like, that's a big deal. $5 is a big deal. So they are working hard to ensure that their sentences are complete, they are error-free, and that they have a word wall word inside of them. And I forgot to box the word wall word. So my students put a box around it, or if they have a highlighter, they would highlight the word wall word. Now, what happens if my students come up to me and they have some sentences correct and some incorrect? I would just basically hand it back to them and say, no, there's an error on here. They need to figure out what the error is. I don't point it out to them. I might in the first couple of weeks, but after the second or third week of school, I don't tell them what the error is. I just say, nah, you got something missing here, or something needs to be fixed. If they come back and all of the sentences then have been corrected, I still give them $1 in my class, because I still want them to go ahead and correct their mistakes, because that's a good practice to get into. So that's how I introduce the word wall words in my class. Every Monday morning, we start with our 5 or 6 word wall words plus our curricular word, and then using those words, they have to write an error-free sentence. And don't get me wrong, I do encourage making mistakes in my class all the time. But when we talk about word wall words, we're practicing how to spell them correctly. And I want them to get in the habit of editing their work and their sentences and double checking the spelling. And so they have little dictionaries that they can use in their desks. And so that is a 30-minute block where I am really reinforcing those editing skills. And part 3 is, what do I do with the word wall words once we've introduced them, once we've used them on Mondays? Well, throughout the week, as I'm teaching a lesson, these word wall words are taped, or I can put a magnet on the back, and they stay up on my whiteboard at the very front of the class all week long, so that whenever I am talking and I say the word or I read the word or whatever, I actually physically will go over and touch the word, just to reinforce that, hey, this is still here, this is still super important. And so I will gesture to it, I will point to it, I will touch it, and I'll use that all week long. And it's at the front of the class, so we're reinforcing and we are exposing the kids to the correct spelling of these words. But then on Fridays, we graduate the words, and this is super fun. So just for fun, I take the words off of the whiteboard, I play the graduation song, I know it's kind of silly, but I graduate the words from the whiteboard, and then my word wall is at the back of the class, actually, because I have a massive bulletin board. It's like 2 full-size bulletin boards put together. And we will graduate this. I'll put this up on the bulletin board, and once the word is graduated, it is no longer allowed to be misspelled in my classroom. And so if a student is writing in their journals or something and they remember that this is a word wall word, they should refer back to the word wall and make sure that they've spelt it correctly. Same thing, any sort of writing that they do in the class, like a personal narrative or a fictional narrative, anything like that, poetry, then they know that they need to refer to the word wall behind them. If they hand something in and let's say the word is misspelled, then I will just write, 3 W's, word wall word, and I'll circle it, and that just reminds them that, oh, that was on the wall and I'm not allowed to misspell it, so I should go back and I should double check it. So Fridays are graduation day, and it also clears up my whiteboard so that when Monday rolls around, I'm ready for my next set of words for our word wall lesson. So there you have it. That is how I do a word wall in my classroom. That is why I still use a word wall in my classroom, even though I know there's a lot of people switching over to a sound wall, which is also really beneficial. I mean, honestly, anything that we do in our class to help our students with more exposure, more practice, recognizing those phonemes and spelling patterns, anything that you do is beneficial. Really, there's no wrong way of doing it. So that's why I still do a word wall in my classroom. But I would love to know what you do in your classroom. So if you could leave me a comment down below. Do you do a word wall? Do you do a sound wall? Do you do both? Do you have one word wall for all of your words? Do you have a specific bulletin board for specific subjects? Let me know what you do in the comments below. I'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much for watching today's episode on word wall words. If you haven't already grabbed your free list of word wall words, you can head over to my website. Again, that's threepeaksclassroom.com/wordwall. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe to my channel just to stay up to date with all my weekly videos. I do like to post a video every single Sunday. Last week, I posted a video in my Classrooms Across Alberta series where I visited Shannon in a grade 7 classroom up near Grand Prairie. Thank you, Shannon, for opening up your classroom. But the next few videos on my YouTube channel are going to be devoted all to phonics. So today's video is about word wall words, and the next few videos are going to be what I teach on Wednesdays and Fridays in my grade 3 or grade 4 classroom, because it changes every year. So yeah, feel free to subscribe so you can stay up to date. Thanks again, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful day, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye.